Welcome back to Miller's Construction. On today's episode, we're going to talk about drywall. I keep getting requests on how we hang drywall. We hang it a little bit differently than other guys. We like to hang it very precise, nice, neat, professional job. If you hang it straight, if you hang it accurate, it's going to be easier on the back end when you go to finish it. That's why we hang it a little bit differently than other people. We've seen a lot of really bad drywall hanging jobs in our day. A lot of guys that will screw the perimeter and nail the field. I can't believe people still use drywall nails in today's day and age. It's not a good idea. There's just a lot of really bad techniques when it comes to hanging drywall. This particular job, we're hanging just a few ceilings here, just to kind of show you how we hang the ceilings. We're not ready for the walls yet. We'll get into that maybe in another episode, but we're going to talk about ceilings specifically on this episode. So really appreciate you guys tuning in. Here we go. All right, first and foremost, take you guys out here. Whoa, look at there. Got ourselves a little guy. Okay, so this is an addition that we built onto this house back in the summer, and the client, who happens to be my brother, is kind of doing a lot of the finishing work himself, but we came to help him hang the drywall. You can see we've already hung all the drywall in this section. We've hung all the drywall in this section. Look at all those recessed lights. Isn't it a beautiful thing? And now we've moved into the actual living condition or living space in here. So this is what we're hanging. Got a little heat running. It's cold today. There's Matt, he's on his stilts. We're measuring out for recessed lights. Special K in the house. One thing that me and Special K have always used when it comes to hanging drywall is a lift. We are hardcore believers in saving your back. Use a lift. If you don't own a lift, rent a lift, right, Kay?
That's right.
That's right. Rent a lift if you don't own one. Kay, 5/8. What year do you think you bought that particular lift? What, if you were to guess what year do you think you bought that lift? It was before I was working with you, so it had to have been over 19 years ago, because I've been doing it 19 years.
Probably 25 years ago.
Probably 25 years ago, and the only part that he's had to replace was this main cross member. Somehow we threw it in the truck and it got bent or something like that. Yep. But other than that, we've done nothing to this thing. This thing works really well. It does squeak really bad, but honestly, me and Kay don't notice the squeaking, but every time I post a video of us lifting rock into place, people hate the squeaking. We've never changed the cable. You're supposed to change it once a year. We've never oiled it. We've never done any maintenance on it at all. It is what it is. So try not to focus on the squeaking when we're lifting panels into place. We don't notice it because we've used this thing so much that we just don't notice it anymore. So something to keep in mind. Now, we are going with 5/8 rock on the ceiling. Matt, you want to explain to the viewers at home why you chose to go with 5/8 instead of 1/2 inch?
24-inch centers.
24-inch on center. So he didn't want to lathe it. He wanted as much headroom as possible. What else?
It's easier for me to hang. Easier
for you to hang because it's not quite as, it's more rigid. Okay, so Matt is a 5/8 type of guy. He likes how it comes up a little straighter, right? Okay. So me and Special K, we like to hang things a little bit different than even Matt does. So that's my brother. He likes to hang 5/8. I hate 5/8. It's too heavy for me. Me and Dad, we're just kind of old school in that way. We prefer to lathe it. Our local lumber yard sells 1x4 yellow pine lathe for like $3 a piece. They're 10 foot long. We'll nail those up with some 2 3/8 ring shank nails right to the bottom of the rafters. And then we'll hang 1/2 inch drywall on that, 16-inch on center, those lathe. And we've never had an issue doing it that way. We like it because we have a wider surface to screw to, so you don't miss as many times. But Matt likes 5/8, so you heard the reasons he likes it. I think they're pretty good reasons, but me and Kay, we still like 1/2 inch. We don't want to bust our backs, so we just lathe it and use 1/2 inch. But for this job, we'll be using 5/8.
Now, from that wall, 36.
So we've got all of these penetrations in the ceiling. What are they? What are they for?
Same.
Recessed light, a speaker. This is going to be his office space.
So these will probably
2 more recessed lights, speaker. These are air sealed boxes for recessed lighting. If you don't install something like this, because the newer style LED wafer lights don't have a, oh, what's that called, a housing, insulation will come dumping down on you and it won't be air sealed very well. So this is our cheap, easy solution to addressing that issue. So I just take a piece of 7/16 OSB, smash it down into some big stretch sealant, and then go around it on the inside as well. And that's just some 2x4 blocking in between. Let me see if I can get you up close on that. It's just some 2x4 blocking, and see, then I run the wires into it and seal around the wires with some big stretch as well. That creates basically just an air sealed box to house that recessed light. Same for a speaker. It's just a speaker box is all it is. That will keep the loose blown cellulose from raining down on top of you, and it will air seal that box. So right now what Matt's doing is he's on his stilts and he's just getting a measurement, and Special K here is just writing all of the measurements down to make 100% sure that we do not forget. Now,
that's a
little less than 10.
So it's 4, 8, and a ripper.
Okay,
that's good.
So we got what Kay's doing here is he's trying to figure out how much drywall we're going to use in this room. Did you say we're a little less than 10 foot? Is that correct? So we're going to have an 8-foot sheet, an 8-foot sheet, and a 2-foot ripper. And obviously this room is over 12 foot long. So we're going to have a butt joint somewhere, and we do our butt joints a little bit differently than other people. Now, let me explain to you on drywall, for those who don't know. Once again, this video, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but this is not necessarily geared towards all professional trades. This might be for a DIYer or for a homeowner or somebody that knows a little bit about drywall but wants to know a little bit more. So let me explain to you what we refer to as a butt joint, what we refer to as a recess. So on drywall, wait till Kay gets out of the way here. I'll just go down here, how about that? So drywall has a factory edge right here, factory edge right here. This is your butt. This is the recess. Why do we call it the recess? Well, let me show you the profile of it. See if I can get you in here. Here's T-square, that'll show it a little bit better. So if I hold that T-square perfectly flat against the drywall, well, looky there, you got yourself a gap. Can you see that gap? That's because this is beveled. They've taken some of the material out right here, and there's actually a channel. You can actually feel it right here. What's that for? That is to accept joint compound. Because everywhere you've got a butt and you add joint compound to it, you're essentially adding a hump to your drywall. So they've addressed that issue by inserting a bevel, taking out a little bit of that gypsum in the middle and compressing it down. So when you take this and you mud it, it will accept joint compound. Does that make sense? It's a lot easier to finish a recess than it is to finish a butt, until we discovered butt boards. We use butt boards now. I will explain to you what they are, how they work, and how we use them in depth here in just a few minutes. But that's the difference. Just keep that in mind. This is a recess, very easy to finish because it will accept joint compound. There is a space for it. This is a butt. Traditionally, it's more difficult to finish. Why is it more difficult to finish? Because you're adding mud to it, you're creating a hump, so you need to feather out that hump. You don't want it so pronounced that it's all in one location. You have to keep adding mud to it, adding mud to it. You want to feather that out. That butt might be a foot to either side of the abutted drywall, see? And that's another reason we call it a butt, because this is the butt end and it's going to abut another sheet of drywall. So hopefully that makes sense. You'll see it in action here in a few minutes when we start hanging. All right, so what Kay is doing right now is he's figuring out where he wants to land his drywall. Now, when you're using butt board, you do not have to land on a rafter. You want to land perfectly in the middle, in between a rafter. Same on the walls. Typically, when you see a butt joint, you might want to land the butt joint, let's say right here on this stud. When you're using butt boards, you want to land it right in the center. So it's actually easier to hang with butt boards, and it's a stronger joint too. And we'll explain that all here in just a minute, but that is critical when measuring the drywall. He's measuring it, and we're going to cut it to a length to where the drywall lands right in the center in between two rafters. All right, so this is a drywall rasp, and basically what Kay is doing here is he's just trying to dress it up a little bit, make that joint fit a little tighter. The tighter it is, the less gaps you have. The less gaps you have, the less mud you got to fill those gaps with, and it just, overall, your joint's going to perform a little bit better. So clean up that butt joint that he just cut off a little bit. So he just cut off just enough to where we'll land right in the center of one of these rafter bays. Now, he's done something a little special for us, right, Kay? He's basically taken a little step out of, I don't know, hanging and measuring an extra piece. So we're going to start right here in this corner. So we need to cut out for this closet, right? Well, what about the piece that's inside the closet? Eventually, you're going to have to drywall that too, right? He just went ahead and marked it right where it belongs. So this is the outside of the closet. This is the inside of the closet. Cut that piece right there on that line. That represents the inside of the closet. That'll be easy to hang, real quick and easy. Then cut that little section off of the remaining, and it should fit right around that closet, no problem. So, and what you got there, Kay? Roto-Zip, that's what we call it. Drywall cutout tool. You can find these fairly inexpensive. But anyways, he's going to cut this right now. We're just using a standard utility knife to cut with, just freehanding it. We do have another tool that we really like that we don't have on the job site. It's called a drywall rock ripper made by Johnson, and it is fantastic. We love that thing. I'll show that maybe in another video, but man, it helps tremendously. All right, he's getting after it here with the drywall router. So a lot of pro drywall hangers will just use a, what do you call those? A keyhole saw, drywall saw, manual. Just feels like too much labor to us, right, Kay? We like anything with a battery on it.
Trigger on it.
Yeah, if it ain't got a trigger or switch, we don't want anything to do with it. We're getting lazy. All right, so there is the panel for the inside of the closet. Now all he's got to do is cut out the remainder, and we'll have our first piece of rock that goes right up here. All right, now, as for Matt over here, what do we got going on here, Matt?
Just cleaning up the gun.
Cleaning up the gun, but what's the gun for? All right, construction adhesive. Now, let's inspect this can a little bit. This is made by Great Stuff, and let's just read this label here. Okay, construction adhesive. What's it made for? Subfloors, drywall, and foam panels. Why would they put drywall on there? Because you can use it for drywall. This stuff is really good. There's a lot of different drywall adhesive brands out there. Titan is one of the big ones. We've used a bunch of Titan. Really good stuff. We like it because it cleans up a lot easier. This Great Stuff foam adhesive does not clean up very easy. This stuff will plug up your gun. It will ruin your gun. You have to clean it up really well. You can see Matt right here. He's really having to clean up the outside edges of the gun.
I just started using the knife on it.
Yeah, just forget it. Don't even try to save it because this stuff will just ruin it. But it's like, what, 22 bucks a can, something like that?
Oh, I think it was more like 14.
14 bucks a can? Oh, I don't think it was that cheap.
Not.
Maybe that's for the cleaner. That sounds like right for the cleaner. Anyways, we use drywall adhesive. Doesn't really matter the brand. This stuff we do like a lot better because it sticks really well to the bottom side of the rafters. But why do we use drywall adhesive? Matt, you want to cover that one, or just a couple points real quick?
Yeah, it's just like you see, less screws in the field, less to finish, less nail pops, screw pops in the future. Okay,
so that's pretty much it. Let me just summarize that for you. Let me step right out here and show you what we've already installed. Now, typically, anytime you see a drywall job that's not using drywall adhesive, they're just peppering the surface, Typically, there'll be 3, a lot of times 4 screws. What does that equate to? Everywhere there's a fastener, that's another spot you have to finish. So it takes time on the finishing side of things. But guess where else it takes time? It takes time sanding and flashing. Anywhere where there's a lot of windows and a lot of raking light across that ceiling, if you don't prime it really good, sand it really good, finish it really good, 9 out of 10 times you can see every single one of those. Doesn't matter how good you are, unless you go to a level 5 where you're actually skim coating the entire surface with joint compound, because there's a porosity difference there, right? So think about it. Paper on the drywall is more porous or less porous, either way, than the joint compound that you are filling the joints with and the screw holes with to cover it up to make it pretty, right? So there's a porosity difference there. Anywhere there's a porosity difference, the paint and the primer dries differently. It's either going to soak further into it and dry faster, or have some resistance to soak into it and dry slower. And there will be a difference. And we call it flashing, because when that raking light comes across it, you can just see it. Doesn't matter how good you are. When you go level 5, you get rid of all those problems. The problem with level 5 is it's extremely labor intensive, okay? Because, I mean, think about it. You're wiping the entire surface with joint compound. This method reduces not only the amount of fasteners that could possibly be shown, but it's also going to reduce screw pops. If something moves and for some reason that screw pulls through the drywall and pops a little bit, or maybe the drywall sucks up or something of that nature, and it pops that little screw out, there's less of those that's going to pop out. So less to finish, less screw pops. The adhesive is going to hold it and bond it to the structure more securely, so you just don't have to worry about that anymore. So it's a small extra step that will pay dividends in the future. So just remember that. Now, what Matt has done here while I've been talking is he's went ahead and measured all the way down through here. You can see there's a line where he's taken a 4-foot ripper and marked himself a line to where he can spray foam, construction adhesive, whatever, all the way to that line. Then we can raise the sheet up into it. That way he doesn't have dried foam out here where it doesn't belong before we can get the next sheet up. Does that make sense? Talk a little bit about the drywall lift itself. Kay's going to demonstrate how we set it up. So these little levers, what are these levers doing here, Kay?
Where you set the sheet.
Okay, that's where you set the sheet of rock. That's literally going to hold the sheet, okay? Now he's taking a measurement right here because he wants to know about how long to extend. Just a second, okay. He wants to know how long to bring out his wings or extensions. That's about right. Now, the one thing that you have to remember, the face of the drywall faces the machine. If you do it the opposite way, if you put the back of the drywall facing the machine, when you tip it down and lift it up into place, it's going to be upside down. We want the face of the drywall facing the conditioned space, right? That's our nice side. So, all right, here we go. We'll just have Matt and Kay here demonstrate how to lift it and load it. This is going to save your back. Using a lift is going to save your back. All you have to do is lift it this one time, set it on the lift, and now guess what? They don't have to hold it up and struggle and try to get a couple screws in it real quick and wear themselves out. You do that after about 10, 20, 30 sheets throughout the day, you're going to be feeling it at the end of the day, especially with 5/8 4x12 rock. That's never fun on the ceiling. So yeah, you need to shift this way, okay? Or you can put the arm in. There you go.
That's good, right?
All right, very nice.
All right.
So now what Kay's going to do is he's going to flip that rock down.
I'm gonna let him glue first.
Okay, yeah, let's let him glue. All right, let's get our adhesive going, Matt. Time to apply the adhesive. You can see how easy it is with the foam. No caulk gun to wear your wrist out. He's just pulling the trigger. That's all he's doing is pulling the trigger. And that's the one thing that we like about this stuff over the Titan adhesive. The Titan has a tendency to bead or fall off once in a while because it's so light and airy. So there's pros and cons to both adhesives. Now what he's doing right now is extremely critical. He's going around that air sealed light box, and all that's going to do is that's going to air seal the back of the sheet to that air sealed box, making it even tighter. So that's a critical connection there. He's just going to go on every single bottom rafter here, right across that HVAC duct. Go ahead and put a little bit on there too, because why not? The foam's cheap, and it's just going to adhere everything together. Air seal the board to the back side of that. Air sealing is very important if you didn't know. We want to air seal as much as we can. A lot of insulation is great, but if air can get through that insulation. Okay, so what happened there, it's kind of fallen off. That's what the Titan does a lot. The Titan tends to fall off. It's just not quite as sticky, I guess. It's more airy and light. This stuff is thicker bodied and really, really sticky. So, and you can throttle these guns down to where they just put out a little bit. He's got his toned down quite a bit. That way he doesn't just spew all over the place with adhesive. So, but it's looking really good. We'll get this. We'll go ahead and get this all the way adhesived up all the way over to our spot, and then we'll hang the sheet. And don't mind the squeaking. We've had this thing for a long time. Go ahead and push it into place, kind of get it positioned, and here we go. See how easy that is? It's not that big a deal. It helps you position it. Fairly simple. Now we don't have two guys, one on each end, just struggling to hold up that heavy 5/8 sheet. Once again, after you do like 20, 30 sheets over and over again like that, you're just killing your back, man. Save your body, rent a lift, slow down a little bit. It all pays the same. If it doesn't, you need to find yourself a different profession, because you're just gonna hurt yourself.
This end here, Matt.
So he's got that a little bit squeezed up, but you can see this end needs to be positioned into place. Looks like he's good to go. Are you ready for a drywall gun, Matt?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
You want this corded one? Is that what you want, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the drywall gun he's using, and he's using it because this specific brand of drywall has extremely dense, hard edges. So you need a little bit of extra power when that comes into play. And we've tried several different cordless drywall guns. They work fine, but you got to use longer length screws when that's the case. So they'll drive it, no problem, but he wants to use the shorter screws. And so he's just fine using this corded one. But we do have the Flex drywall gun here, and it is absolutely phenomenal. We love this thing. Love that it's cordless, everything about it. This is the best one that we have ever used, actually. And we've used a lot of them. But we really like that one. But it's just the edges of this brand of drywall is so dense and hard that even his corded one is having, it's struggling to drive it. Matt, you want to go ahead and flip those down? We didn't do that. We didn't show the, okay, there we go. So we flip those down. Usually once we get it on the lift, we're probably confused because we're filming all this, trying to think of everything, but usually you flip those down. So he's just gonna go around the perimeter right now, installing fasteners, and then he'll just put a couple fasteners in the center, and he'll be done. So it actually, you know, you spend a little bit of time on the front end with the adhesive, but you make it up on the back end. Another little pro tip for you if you're a DIYer or a homeowner trying to do this yourself. We mark every rafter so that you can see it. Just a little pencil mark. So see, he's covered up the rafter, but he's went ahead and marked every rafter location just so that he can see it. A lot of people forget to do that, and it can really cause you some headaches if you don't. So we mark every single rafter location on the top plate. Nice and easy. Special K wants to correct me. These aren't rafters, these are ceiling joists. Excuse me. I got 1,000 things on my mind, sir. I'm trying to film here. Okay, we're professionals here. These are ceiling joists, not rafters. The rafters are up top. What you would technically call a top chord on a truss. All right, so what Matt's gonna do here is he's gonna route it out. Which brand of router are you using there, Matt?
Flex.
Let's give a shout out to Flex, the best tools in the world, man. All right. And don't get frustrated if you're a homeowner or DIYer and you can't cut that clean. That takes years of practice, don't it, Matt?
Oh yeah.
A little bit of practice. So don't get frustrated, but just take your time. Take your time and you'll be okay. This is a butt board, and I have a full tutorial how to make these yourself, save yourself some money. But there are some companies that make these, like Trimtex, if you want to order them and you don't want to mess with making them yourself. But I will put a link in the description down below where you can make these yourself. But what this is basically is a piece of 7/16 OSB cut down to a 5.5 inch by 54 inch tall board, and then we've put a 3-degree bevel on one side of it and a 3-degree bevel on the other side of it. And essentially what that's going to do is the butt of the drywall is going to follow that bevel, and it will automatically create a recess. Yes, this will be a floating butt. It's actually stronger. If you don't believe me, try it. Try to crack a butt that's installed and finished that's floating on a stud, and then try to crack one that's floating out here. This one is much, much, much stronger, especially the way we install it with adhesive. But that's essentially what it is. You can see that bevel. See, it's flat on the back side. What happens is the drywall follows that bevel, and it's going to create a recess. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get this installed. But before we install it, it's critical, in our opinion. Special K is going to put a Special K special on it. A little bit of drywall adhesive. And that's going to bond it very nice, make a nice, secure, strong connection to the drywall. Notice how he didn't go all the way to the end. That's because drywall panels that we're installing are 48 inches, and we've made our butts 54 inches. That way they'll catch the next piece of drywall, stiffening it even more, making it even more sturdy. So now the installer evens it up. You can see where that cut mark is. He's going to try to stay about the center of that line, and here we go with the flex. There we are. All right, now he's actually attaching the butt. You want to put a lot of screws in this, okay? We want extra screws. Screws are cheap. Feel free to put as many as you need to in it. Now he has bonded the butt board to the butt of that piece of drywall. We're ready for the next piece. Lots of screws in this one. A nice secure connection to that butt board. Now, we'll go ahead and let him fasten up the rest of the sheet. Then we'll show you the advantage of the butt board. Now. Here's that same butt joint up close and personal. Now, let's go ahead and focus on this recess for just a second so we can talk about that a little bit. Okay, you see that gap? That gap's going to accept joint compound. Now, that makes it a lot easier to finish. Without the butt board, you would not have that gap. You see that little bit of gap, just that little bit? That will accept the tape and all of the joint compound all the way down through there. Isn't that beautiful? So normally if you were to just break that, you can see how much we're spanning there? It's just a small little recess. If you were to break this butt on that ceiling joist, it would be flat as a pancake all the way across there. When you add joint compound to it, you are creating a hump essentially. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll show it one more time. You can see that little bit of a gap. That's what we're looking for. That's why we love to use the butt boards. All right, so now it's time to take a measurement for our next sheet, and I just want to show you guys where we measure from. So I'm going to take the tape, and I'm just going to guess. Drywall's about 4 foot wide, so I'm going to guess about 2 foot. And he's going to measure about the same distance. So essentially what we want is we want right about the center of the sheet where it's going to land. Now, what does that measure, Matt? What was the overall right there?
117 and 7/8.
117 and 7/8. But what do you want us to make the sheet?
We're gonna make it 117 and 5/8.
117 and 5/8. Okay, so you hear that, folks? Don't make the sheet too tight. That is a common DIYer mistake, and it's painful to watch. These people that'll make it the exact measurement, and they try to stuff it into place, and they struggle with it, and it's just, oh, it's awful. Especially in remodeling applications where the walls might not be square. These walls are actually pretty square to each other, so we're making it a little bit tighter, but we've been known to take a 1/2 inch or even 3/4 off in certain situations where the wall is out of square. Sometimes you have no choice. So just be mindful of that. We're taking, what are we taking, about 3/8 off of this or something like that? About 3/8 off of this piece, and it should slide right in, no problem. The gap that it leaves on the end, it's going to be covered by the wall panels, so not a big deal. So we've got a ceiling fan light fixture box, junction box in the ceiling right here, and it's hanging sub-flush from the bottom of the ceiling joists. So we have fastened the end on both sides and a little bit on the other side of the panel, but you can see how it's hanging down right here. That's because if we were to go ahead and fasten that, it would probably bust out. We don't want that to happen. We just want pressure against that box that's hanging sub-flush. Yeah, you can see Matt there demonstrating. Now, talk a little bit about the router that we use. You don't just go buy any router bit for your drywall router. This is a guide point bit. See how it's got a little, whoa, our light just shut off. I guess our battery's dead. Battery went dead on our flex light, so had to throw it on the charger real quick. We're back. What I was saying, check out the point on that bit. See how it's got this guide point on it. So that's literally going to ride against that steel fixture, fixture that's sub-flush from the drywall. And Matt will be able to route that out. Now, it's important to know which direction the bit is turning though. So we turn it on and we see that it's actually turning counterclockwise. That means you want to route clockwise depending on if you're on the outside or the inside of the box, right?
Yeah. So if you're on the outside, you're going to want to go counterclockwise because it's going to spin towards the box, keeps you sucked to the box. If you're going to route like a doorway or something of that nature, like we do the sides generally, you're going to want to route clockwise because it's going to spin into the wood.
There you go. Okay. So we'll let him demonstrate. First you got to mark it, right? Or did you already mark it? Okay, you already marked it. You got it laid out. So he just put him a mark about where it's at, and then he knows it's about 11 inches from that mark. And so he's just going to find it with the bit. You really just let the bit do the work, man, honestly. Yep. There we go. So now, I'll take the router. Now he can actually finish screwing the rest of the drywall up tight. So kind of explain how drywall router works, huh? With that being said, I hope this answered some of the questions on how we hang drywall. If you have any questions or concerns at all, leave a comment down below. I love reading the comments and hope this helped somebody. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and check me out on Instagram at Miller's Construction. And yes, that's Miller's with 2 I's. So it's M-I-I-L-L-E-R-S Construction. That's our last name, Miller's. So spelled a little bit unusual, I know, but just make sure you get 2 I's and 2 L's in there and you'll find us. So really appreciate you guys tuning into the channel. We'll see you on the next one.